Good morning, everybody. We had some great things to cover today. We're going to talk about something that I've never discussed on camera before. So let's get ready for a great show. And good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Patrick Flynn, and welcome to this morning's A Different Perspective. I am always so glad you guys are here with me on Saturday mornings. It's my youngest daughter's birthday today. Happy birthday, Felicity. She is 11 years old. We're going to have a wonderful day. We're going to go down to the one of our favorite bakeries down in Appleton after this. Happy Bellies, and we got a little celebration for her, and it's been a great time. So my youngest is 11 years old, so happy birthday, sweetie. We're going to have a wonderful day hanging out and doing some fun things. So it's wonderful here on September 14th. She was born just 11 years ago. I still remember it. No joke, Chrissy was in labor, and all of a sudden, it was going very short time. All of a sudden, we did this large snap, and I'm like, what the heck? Did a 2x4 break? No, it was Chrissy's water break, and she came out so fast, we had to deliver her on the floor in the bedroom. We didn't even make it to the bathtub. So it was kind of a nice, birth was fine for me. I mean, I made it through just fine. But anyways, it was good. It was a great, fast birth and everything. So sweetie, it's great having you on the planet. It's actually the only daughter that looks like me. So by far, she's the most beautiful daughter. And so that's all. No, I have 4 gorgeous daughters. But anyways, that being said, happy birthday, honey. Well, we got lots going on. I'm talking about something that I've never spoke on before. Now, obviously, in clinical practice, you talk about everything. But today, I'm gonna set the stage. I've never talked about this actually, but I got such big requests for it today. We're gonna get to the topic in a little bit that way. So I apologize. I'm gonna try to teach it to way you take something very technical and make it simple. I've always said educators take something simple and make it really complex so they seem smart, even though they're complete morons. Communicators take something very complicated and try to make it very simple so everybody can understand and apply it to their life. And that's what I try to do with every topic. But this one's a tough one, so hang in there with me. I'm hoping to be able to convince you at the end of the time that something that we need to know about this specific thing. But we're going to let you know that is in just a short time. But before we get started, remember this. Next week, at the end of the month, here we have right here. We have Leadership Longevity Conference coming up right here on our slide. You can see it right there. You're going to be able to buy tickets. You can buy tickets now, but I'm going to tell you hold off till next week because we have a special luncheon that we're doing with a very amazing person that's going to be speaking during luncheon. You can buy a ticket for that, separate ticket. But you can see we have Leadership Longevity Conference coming up next May 2nd and 3rd. It's going to be Friday, Saturday. It's going to be absolutely incredible. I already have a bunch of speakers already lined up. We're going to have a different format. We can go bigger. We actually can only hold 1,000 people this time. Last time we had a little over 700. We sold out the venue that way. But if you look, here's what we're doing for tickets. So I'm doing it very different this year. Last year, I just had them $50 straight across. It was great. So for all you guys that purchase your tickets before the end of the year, not a joke, they're same price as last year. You can buy your in-person ticket for $50. And just to let you guys know, if you came to the event, I think we had $250 worth of product just in the goodie bag alone. Do you understand? I mean, it was kind of fantastic. If you would just go on our website and buy the supplements that I actually gave you in the goodie bag, I think it'd be $250 at least. But then you can see the online person. Online person is $199 because there's people that were from all over the world on the seminar live. And yes, if you do it live, you get recorded. But here's the point. Then you can see January 1st, it goes up to $100. And if you understand what it takes to run a seminar, you lose money on a seminar. You really do. It's kind of cool. It's like but we do it for a big culture, a big public thing that we do. But you can see then January 1st, they go up to 100 and online go $275. But one last thing you see here, $150 March 1st till the seminar May 2nd. The tickets online go up $350. So everybody I believe that we're going to have probably most tickets sold before the end of the year, just because we're going to keep them at a very good discount, bring in wonderful people in, invest in our community. It's going to be absolutely exciting. So that being said, as you can see, we have more things going on the rest of the year. I'm so excited for this coming up, though. October is our sleep challenge. I am so excited for that because if there's one thing that I'm consistently talking about when it comes to women and their health is get their sleep and stuff like that. And Kyle, come back to me and stuff. So there we go. So what I want you guys to understand is we have all these challenges through the year. We have sugar in January. We have We have the detox in April, we have the protein challenge in July, and then we have the sleep one in October. So don't forget that we do all these on a regular basis. They're all free. You can actually go to our Facebook page, do with our community down there that we all have to talk about, go through things we go through. The sleep one I think is going to be the most impactful, so I'm very looking forward to that. Now, with that being said, we have our wonderful cookbook that is going to be in. It's supposed to be in here this week because we sold out so quickly. We had to get the shipment. And literally, it's kind of cool when you watch shipping. We saw it come across the ocean in the big old ship and stuff like that. It gives you the idea. So we got thousands and thousands of copies that will be delivered probably this week. So you can still pre-order them. They'll be shipped out to you guys as soon as you come in. I don't think our one thing that I was really frustrated with, not in a negative way, but frustrated because I was like, oh my goodness, we had so many pre-sales that after selling the book, now we have more sales and like, oh my goodness, I think our shipment, and when you produce a book like this, it takes a couple months to produce. So I'm hoping that we sell it, but I hope I don't want to sell it too quick because everybody bought so many books and it's been going wonderful. And go check out the reviews. The reviews have been fantastic. So, all right, but there's some exciting things I posted on my social media yesterday. And literally my phone blew up, not only from direct messages, but also text messages, because I'm kind of guy this way. I kind of do this. I work behind the scenes a lot. I always say our company's like a duck on the water. You say I'm just a duck. You ever see it's like kind of floating on the water, seems cool. Water doesn't seem to be going much, but underneath those feet are doing what? Those feet are going 100 miles an hour. Okay, so we are always working behind the scenes to produce and do, and our brand continues to expand not only from offices all over the world, but products itself. A cookbook is actually another expansion of our products. But we've been working on this for a significant amount of time, and two of our docs headed up the whole project on this. But we have the first aspect of our skincare line coming out. So as you can see from this little video right here, we just got this sent by the manufacturer. Like I said, there's been no sound, so I'm gonna narrate this. But we have our first product of our skincare line coming out. Oh, look at that beautifulness right there. And it took a significant time to come up with this facial cream. And it's going to be beef tallow based because once again, there's people that do things and put bad ingredients and put binding agent, put everything in there. We cannot do that. You know, once again, I want to show you that the products that we do, once again, sometimes they're very hard. People don't realize some supplementation is very hard to get just because of the sourcing. Make sure, once again, that's not toxic. You gotta have all the testing. There's so many things that we reject in our supplements. It's absolutely crazy. You know what I'm saying? We'll get a batch of, let's say, milk thistle, and once you test it, and we're talking the raw plant, so we didn't even go through the minimal processing process, but the idea is this, and all of a sudden it will have, you know, toxic metals, it'll have pesticides, things like this, and we reject it, okay? We reject it, it cannot be used in ours. And here's the funny part is this, do you know what they do with it? They don't throw it out. They give it to other supplement companies and they put it in their product. And so they don't lose it. We reject anything that isn't at such high purity and great things. Skincare, you want to talk about skincare, and also we're working on some makeups too, so it's kind of neat. But it takes a long time to get products that are good to think. I could call up any manufacturer that was a shitty one and say, throw us good skincare, and throw us a skincare product. And they could. You could put your name out that way, and guess what happens? But then the toxicity and everything, we talk about this way. What are we doing, you know, in April next year? We're doing a detox month. Why? I'm gonna try to have you get rid of all your things that you put on and in your body for the time, or even your house. You know, saying get rid of those fragrances and air fresheners and things, and try to move the toxic things that put a burden on your body. There's things that we cannot control. I always tell people, people say, well, Doc, why are you so particular about things? Because just by nature, we can't control things. I walked outside, we have a big parking lot, and one of our staff members pulled up with me when I pulled up the way, and I jumped out of the truck, and what do you think I smelled? Fumes. I'm like, ugh, you know what I'm saying? And if you smell it, it got to you, you know what I'm saying? Now, darling, is my body going to rid that? Absolutely. So there's things I cannot control. So I tell people the reason why we're so particular about products you put in and on your body is because we have control of that. We really do. And at the last 10%, I'm going to talk about control and understanding things that way. And darling, is it emotional? Yes. Do you understand that the vast majority, if not 99% of the decisions we make are all emotional? They really are, okay? Once again, have you ever eaten anything bad? Yes. Was that logical? No. It was what? Emotional. See, all things in life are psychological. Sometimes you're psycho, sometimes you're logical. You know what I'm saying? It's just like a relationship. There's two people. It's psychological. One's psycho, one's logical. You can decide in your relationship. All right, so we'll go from there. That being said, here we go. As you guys know, we do giveaways, and this is not a joke, and thank you. And we're going to give one thing, so Dr. Bryce is here with me today, and so is Dr. Lucas, and so is Dr. Destiny. We are going to do this. We are going to give away over $1,000 save, but here's what happens. But Dr. Bryce, you're going to pick one person that gets one thing of the beef towel skin cream. Just one. So if you want the beef towel, you talk to Dr. Bryce. So let's go over to Dr. Bryce, Dr. Destiny, and Dr. Lucas.
Oh, man. Well, good morning and welcome, everyone. This is going to be a great show, and those are some pretty high stakes.
Yep, it's going to get aggressive in the comments now, I can tell. Yeah.
I foresee stories out there in the zoo. But I'm over here on Instagram. Almost Dr. Destiny is on
ADP website today.
And Dr. Bryce, you are on?
I'm on Facebook.
And today's going to be great. So, Dr. Destiny, what do we got for our giveaways?
So today we are giving away one of our amazing glandulars. We're doing blood sugar glandular today. And just make sure you guys are interacting with all of us in the comments.
Awesome. And then I have a winner right away. So as you guys have probably caught on by now, we like to give away Academy scholarships to people who are just eager to learn. And today we have a gentleman who's been on his health journey for quite a few years. And it wasn't until he found the Wellness Way that things really started to drastically improve. And he's actually recently retired and somehow still has the time, energy, and also the passion to continue learning, and also is just dedicated to serving others. So congratulations to Dan Maselli. You are now entered into the Wellness Way Academy, so welcome to the team.
And here we go. I'm going to go live on TikTok now so I can go. You guys can see me here. There we go. Everybody's texting me going, you're not live on TikTok. I know, I forgot to turn my phone. So, hey everybody from TikTok, hope you guys are doing great. So, that being said, guys, with everything that we do, remember, go to our website and you can scroll down to the bottom. And every week and every Saturday morning, we put your email in. Well, you put your email once. You get the newsletter every single week. Once again, it's fantastic. I just popped up. I had it up for a second there when I was jumping on TikTok Live. But all of our wonderful articles that are there that you can get on a regular basis. But by far, the most important part of our website, go to the top right. You can see Find a Clinic, and you can scroll down, and you can see all the clinics that we do have on there. It's absolutely fantastic, and more become every month. So it's great to see that we have all of our wonderful doctors that are there. And you can see they expand every single time. And we have more doctors that come every single month, so it's kind of exciting. That being said, guys, let's get into our perspective for what we have today. Okay, so before we get started, let me say this again. A lot of people don't realize this. If you legitimately email me about something that you want to hear about, I will spend the time and do videos. I will do reels. Sometimes I do reels because it's something that will not take that long to teach on, and I can do it within a minute or two. And that's why people ask me on herb or things like that. Even though we talk about herbs almost every time we're doing things. But so email me at pflynn@thewellnessway.com. Once again, pflynn@thewellnessway.com. And if you want me to teach on something, I will, because if I get enough requests on it. Well, I cannot believe over the years how many times I've gotten this request. And legitimately, I don't know why, but in the last 2 months, I've gotten this request over 200 times. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to give in and do it. Now, why am I going to give in and do it? Because, you know, we're going to do this again. Remember, let's do this again. We talk about the carnivore crew. We talk about the vegan crew, or vegetarian, okay? I tell everybody, I'm kind of in the middle. You say, I watch all the things about carnivore, and I'm like going, I see some wonderful things there. But you can't really, I just can't get rid of cruciferous. I just can't. Just knowing the labs I know and things like that, and the results you can get, I just can't do it. I just cannot, okay? On the flip side, you know, people say, well, doc, you say there's great proteins there for plants. Absolutely, and they have wonderful benefits that way. But I just can't give up some of those things that you get from animals. No one's going to ever convince me to give up liver, period. And for all of you guys, and I get this question all the time, and let me say this, okay? The liver is not the most toxic organ in the body. Let me say it again. It's not the most toxic organ in the body. It deals with the most toxins, but it doesn't store them. Do you know what stores toxins? Fat. So if you have a adipose tissue, there's your toxic thing, okay? That's why I tell people, if you ever think of it this way, if you ever think about this, and if you look at some of the tissues that get the most fat, it's actually muscle. So I want you to think about this. So if a cow's eating, pesticide, herbicide, fungicide-based corn and soy, it's going to store that within its fat, and you're going to eat it. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go for the grass-fed cow that doesn't have as much, is a little more lean, and therefore, and also fed the good thing. So my point is this, is when you look at the things that we do, I'm going to go towards both camps today and understand this because there's some things that you need to know about it, and here's our topic, and it's a difficult one. Here we go. It's about oxalates, kidney stones, and more, okay? Because kidney stones are very prevalent today, but oxalates are blamed dramatically. Okay, and this happens a lot with a lot of things. They will take a isolated ingredient out of a food, and they can demonize it. I've seen it done many times. It's really funny. I've been watching some of these people that are more, let's say, on the medical side. So let's say medical and more of our side. And what they do is they tear on these people that talk about individual ingredients. Okay, but what's really funny? And Dr. Bryce and I were talking about this the other day. Do you know what's really funny? They're like, you can't just say phytic acid and how bad it is because it can show us the benefit, this, and this, and you can't do it oxalates and this. I'm like, okay, cool, I get it. So you're way over in this camp, all right? And what they say, don't isolate individual ingredients. But do you know, in the biggest medical farce in history next to vaccines are the biggest farce in medical history, but they do isolate something from the body. You know what it's called? LDL. They isolate this one thing, and in the meridian studies, I'm like going, oh my goodness. I'm like, really? I mean, really? You sit there and go, someone talks about anti-nutrients in plants, and you're tearing on them, but you're obsessed with LDL? Be a little congruent, you know what I'm saying? Now, once again, people say, what's my stance on LDL? Well, first of all, the body made it. It's significant for every aspect of life. But if it gets elevated for too long, it's not the LDL that's the problem. The LDL can carry, and you can grab some immune cells within the arteries, and it could be a bad day. But why is the LDL elevated in the first place? Because you've just done some bad shit for a long time, and now your LDL is compensating for it, and you're going to blame it. You see? So just because you see a commonality of LDL being high with people that have atherosclerosis doesn't mean it's a causal factor. You see? And it's like, and I love how every time that this camp on this side, once again, it talks about, but look at the relationship. And then when they don't like something, when they talk about vaccines and how they see all the mental retardation and all the psychiatric problems there, they say, well, there's not that much relationship, even though the curve goes like this. You see, and so it's kind of funny how they pick and choose. I don't do that. You say, and I sit there and go, okay, I understand the carnivore, I understand the vegan, I understand, and you're going to find out I'm mostly in the middle on things. You see, when you look at it this way, carnivore, people, and they can give me all testimonials. I'm like, cool, I get it. Or plant-based, cool, I get it. But you can find out the answers are most of the time in the middle, all right? Just like this. So we're talking about oxalates. And I know, like last week, last week or two, when I did histamine, because people freak out about mast cell activation syndrome, which once again, I totally agree it's there. But, you know what I'm saying? But, guess what happens? Is the histamine has to be triggered, and histamine is essential for life, so don't demonize histamine, all right? On the flip side, if you have a lot of histamine reactions, it's a bad day. You swell, you puff, you do everything bad. I get it, but you gotta come in the middle and say where it's coming from. So when we have oxalates, I know there's a crew over here that just think oxalates are the most horrible thing on the planet, and they're here to say it makes no difference. Guess where I am, guys? I'm in the middle, so let's get into it, all right? But it relates to kidney stones so much that I want to talk about them and what we can do. So what I want to do is this. I just want to pull out kidney stones a little bit and just kind of talk about them for a second. So it sets a stage of why maybe they develop. Because is it totally based on calcium oxalate? We don't know. Let's figure it out together. Here we go. Introduction. Kidney stones is the most common condition affecting the urinary system, affecting about 12% of the world's population. All right, Kyle, come back for a second. 12% is a significant amount of people. If there's roughly, let's say, 7 billion people on Earth, or even 6 billion, so I know it's between there, that means that roughly what? 600 million people can suffer, if not more, maybe 700 million. That's a significant amount of people through the whole world that suffer with a condition. It's like PCOS. They say that 10% of the women suffer from it. That's significant. Now, kidney stones, this is 12% of all the population. All right, let's go back. With a yearly incidence of 600,000 in America, It is a result of a crystal or crystalline concentration traveling from the kidney through the genitourinary tract system. Kidney stones correlate with an increase of chronic kidney disease, early stage renal failure, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and hypertension. Okay, let's just stop right there. So that's the one thing. Okay, so if you look at how kidney stones develop, I'm going to make just a very bold statement, but understand this is it's backed by all the research on that way, and they just kind of said it about right there. People that have repeated kidney stones, they will focus on this. They'll pull the stone out and say, "Oh my goodness!" The vast majority of them, I think 80 to roughly 90%, that there's so statistically out there, is made of oxalates, calcium oxalate mainly, and they'll say, "Look you have to avoid oxalates." Now, I understand what they mean. If you have them more readily available, you have a better chance of actually developing it. But what has to happen first? The kidney has to be sick. You don't develop kidney stones because you just eat too many oxalates. There's my bold statement. You say, you have to have the conditions set for it in order for the kidney to actually even build up the stone in the first place. See, because there's a lot of metabolism that happens within the kidney and a genitourinary tract and things of that happen that lead to it. So let me just say that right out. So that's why I sit there and go, okay, for all the people that have kidney stones all the time, it's calcium oxalate, so we got to avoid them. But you understand the foods that actually have oxalates? It's going to blow your mind away. Because you hear me talk in other shows about some foods that are absolutely fantastic for you, and you're going to find out they're high in oxalates. So I'm going to set the tone for all of you. It's like the people this. Let's go back to this. Mast cell activation syndrome, okay? They are just obsessed with histamine because the histamine brings you all the pain and the suffering and all the conditions there. But there had to be something triggering the histamine response. So you don't find the triggers, guess what? Same thing with kidney stones. There's other conditions that damage the kidney. So that's why if you ever notice, and I love that they say it on here, people that suffer from diabetes, some kidney disease, okay, any kind of renal change, there's going to be more apt of developing kidney stones. And that's important to know. So if you think this way, and we're going to come back to this on a regular basis, what is the number one food source that it actually affects the kidneys? Let me see if we're going to get this right. Do me a favor. If you're on Facebook, if you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, you're on all the platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, do me a favor. Type in what do you think is the major food source that destroys the kidneys? You're right, it's sugar. That's why if you ever look, diabetics usually end up on dialysis if they suffer long enough from it because it destroys the kidney. The glycation destroys the nephrons dramatically, and therefore it leads to you having damage and you have more chance of ability. Now when you're supposed to metabolize oxalates and other things, it's very difficult, even calcium. Because remember, people say oxalates. Well, the major form of oxalate that develops within kidney stone is a calcium oxalate. So should we just also get rid of all the calcium within our body too? It's kind of funny. I laugh about this. Is if you look at atherosclerosis, do you understand that you cannot have atherosclerosis without certain immune cells? Let me say that again. You can't have atherosclerosis without certain immune cells because there's a foam that's produced and there's actually some buildup. And so they look at the plaquing. We got to reduce LDL because circulating LDL. Well, why don't we get rid of the circulating immune cells that could lead to atherosclerosis? See, it makes no sense. But guess what else is atherosclerosis? You can do a calcium score to see if it's there. So why don't we just get rid of all calcium? And now look at this. We found out that there's calcium in calcium oxalates. Why don't we get rid of all the calcium in our body? Because then we don't have to worry about atherosclerosis or we don't have to worry about kidney stones. See how dumb that sounds when you actually reason through this stuff? I sit there and laugh and they just particular one little thing. So all of you medical influencers that are talking about going after people that are talking about oxalates or phytic acid or trying to nutrient that way, you have to look at a totality of that way. Oxalates, once again, they do have a benefit. There are beneficial things to oxalate, just like there's beneficial things to phytic acid. Now, high phytic acid, can it be listed as anti-nutrient? Absolutely. Can oxalates be listed as anti-nutrients? Absolutely. Because why? It binds to calcium. But you're going to find out the predominant thing is this, is when you can change and metabolize your oxalates, you'll do just fine. So let's take a look. Here we go. The etiology, most patients with kidney stones form calcium stones, most of which are composed primarily of calcium oxalate or calcium phosphate. The other types include uric acid, struvite, which is a magnesium phosphate, and cystine stones. Of note, one patient may also have stones that contain more than one type of crystal. Now, if you look at the risk factors, personal history of prior kidney stones, yes, because you have kidney problems. Family history of kidney stones, okay. It's really funny. I'll come back to me on this one, Kyle. Here's what happens. This was presented to me the other day, and I've been saying this for a lot of years. People will always run towards the genetic thing because then there's no argument for it. Let me give you an example. Do you understand? This is not a joke. It's their catchphrase. Whenever a doctor has zero idea what's going on, they'll always blame genetics. They will, because then it dictates that you have no control over it. Do you understand? And it's really funny, but I want you to think about this. So I want you to think about the whole, let's go back 200 years ago. 200 years ago, all right? Do you understand if you had a genetic condition, you died quite early? So therefore, you probably didn't procreate, and therefore that gene pool would eventually do what? Would die off. So I love people say, type 1 diabetes is genetic. Okay, I'm not saying there couldn't be a gene that was flipped, but before that we had insulin and insulin pumps. If type 1 diabetes was genetic, they would have died and died off, and that gene would have never been able to transfer if that would happen that way. Think of just time. Do you understand? And people say, well, guess what happens? But then the gene changed as we got older. True. Genes do trigger, and they can turn on. See, I tell people, do you know, here, and I'm going to give this, and this probably get me kicked off all social media platforms. Do you know why I believe that genes are affected at such a young age? Because you're poisoning kids from day one. Look at it, had it since you're born. Yeah, but 3 seconds after they're born, you're shooting them up with an Hep B shot, which only prostitute and drug users get, which mostly live in the Democratic Party. But anyways, we'll go over from a different day. But the idea is this. It's political season, I'm going to get there. But the idea is this, I want you to think about, I get this, I have to tell you this. So I went through and I got tea at Starbucks this morning, and I got to tea this way. I'm sorry, this is a little note, but I'm in a sassy mood this morning. Maybe it's because of my daughter's birthday. But I want you to think about this. I walked up to I drove to the drive-thru that way. Me and Felicity and Calista ordered our tea and stuff that way. And all of a sudden, there's a young lady wearing a mask. Okay, just for purposes of entertainment here, okay? What party do you think that she's going to vote for? Okay? On the flip side, if you see a person wearing an American flag shirt or a hat, what party do you think they're going to vote for? You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, once again, we're going to talk about empathy at the end here, but that's the point, okay? Now, soapbox there, but let's go back to this. Here, family history and genetics. Let's go back to the thing. Increased absorption, urinary tract infections, low fluid intake, history of diabetes, acidic urine. Do you know what that means? I want you to think about this. You look at all the etiologies and the risk factors, what it does. It shows that this person's already sick. Do you understand? It shows that they're already sick. See, so the concept of kidney stones continually developing is because the environment in which we do things and sets up our body for success or failure. I've always said this, and this is why I had to create the fire department corporate example. You know, it's really funny. We have to stop doing this. Do you understand that we made medicine into a god, like everything they do is actually great? Because here's why, and this is the trick they do. And I mean this very sincerely. Let's say right now your dad, your grandpa, somebody has a major heart attack and could possibly die and goes to the surgeon, and guess what happens? And they save his life. The sad part is this. What they've done now is they've totally put their trust in that person, which I'm okay with. But beyond that point, they trust everything that doctor says like they know what they're talking about. And see, that's what happens in medicine. They've created emergency rooms, created stuff, and I'm very happy they've done that. I'm very happy they've done that. But what they've done now is they've deitized everything when it comes to their opinions, when it comes to health stuff, and you wonder why we're so damn sick. See, if you think about it this way, do you understand that most things that you do at the doctor actually work against everything which your body does you created? Period. Do you understand? Do you understand any of this? And I think of it this way. I want you to think about this compared to like people say we're like a machine. No, we're not. Because here's why. If all of a sudden something's wrong with your car and you rip a part out, you don't depend on the car to sufficiently get itself back to normal so it runs right. So let's say you did have a heart attack. And all of a sudden the doctor comes in and reconstructs a valve and puts a stent in or opens it or does a bypass that way. The doctor doesn't do the repair and healing. Do you understand? He closes up and goes, I hope this works. I hope the body does what it's supposed to do, and you still depend on that mechanism that's trying to get everything back to normal, aka homeostasis in the body. We've lost that aspect of how important it is. So that's why the environment is everything. See, if you think of it this way, that's like why practitioners like us are going to be so important in the future, because we're seeing this, and thank God for RFK, we're seeing this the most. But here's what happens this, is we are extremely chronically sick, and our kids are getting sicker. And because why? They're always trying to, they have this fallacy that you're going to do something or take something or some surgery that's going to get something back to normal. No, it's not. You say, then it's never going to happen that way. So when we look at the etiologies of anything, even kidney stones, guess what? You have to have the environment that allows it not to develop in the first place. Kidney stones are not normal. They're common, but they're not normal. Okay, so let's go on here. Let's take a look. Histopathology. Okay, here's the basic breakdown of the stones that are there. And yes, calcium oxalates are the major backbone, like I said, and it can range anywhere from 80 to 90% that I've read as far as that. But I want you to think about this. There's also magnesium in some of the stones. There's also uric acid. So should we get rid of all the magnesium in our body? See, I know, when you start talking like that, it's just kind of funny when it's because, of all the people that say, oxalates are horrible, I'll never eat oxalate. I'm going, well, some of your stones are magnesium. So we get rid of all your magnesium, so we get rid of calcium, and your oxalates actually have to be bound to calcium in order to have a stone. So it's calcium oxalate, it's not just oxalates itself. So let's take a look then. So what is an oxalate? Let's take a look at it. Here we go. Oxalic acid is an organic compound found in many plants, including leafy greens, vegetables, fruits, chocolate, nuts, and some seeds. In plants, it's usually bound to minerals forming oxalate. The term oxalic acid or oxalate is used interchangeably in nutritional science. Your body can produce oxalates. Hold the phone, let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. See, if you think about this, your body does produce a lot of things that can be used, once again, to bind calcium. Do you understand that an oxalate can be used to mobilize calcium to bring it to other spaces? It is. That's why it binds the calcium. And see, in Durham, if your bloodstream is significantly high and there's a lot of oxalates running around, could it bind the calcium that's supposed to go in bone? Sure, and that's why it can have the term anti-nutrient. But see, they so take it out of context that they don't realize that oxalate actually metabolizes into other things in other forms. And it's produced in our body. See, there's a lot of pathways. Let's say this. Let me give you what I mean by pathway. If I want to go from A to D, I have to go from A to B, B to C, and C to D. And that's just basics of biochemistry. And now what happens is this. Sometimes if you go to A to B, and let's say now there's a formation of oxalate, and you're supposed to go to B to C so we can metabolize and get rid of it, but all of a sudden you're lacking the things to convert from B to C. Maybe you're nutrition deficient. Maybe you have a toxin like heavy metal that stops that conversion. And all those things happen in all the organs, and now there can be an elevation of oxalates, and there can be a problem. So there doesn't even need to be a consumption of oxalates. What? You mean a person can have a kidney stone without a high consumption of oxalates? Yeah, I'm going to show you how. Let's go back to here. Your body can produce its own oxalates, its own obtained from its food. Vitamin C can also be converted into oxalates when it's metabolized. I'll come back here again, Kyle. Do you understand? So these people that take high doses of vitamin C, the pathway to convert it and use it actually turns into an oxalate. And let's say you're missing the enzyme because you took so much vitamin C, you don't have to eat any foods that actually have oxalates in it, and you can produce your own oxalate and actually develop kidney stones. So think about that, okay? That's why, if you notice, let's correlate something. Let's take a high concentration, highly processed fruit juice, okay? Sugar, added sugar, higher on the glycemic index, affects the kidneys, high vitamin C. Could that have a contributing factor? Maybe that orange juice that's fully processed, maybe that could contribute. Just even look at how the metabolism works. Let's go on. Once consumed, oxalates can bind to minerals and form compounds, including calcium oxalates or iron oxalates. The mostly occurs in the colon, but can also place in the kidneys and other parts of the urinary tract. In most people, these compounds are eliminated through stool and urine. However, sensitive individuals, high oxalate diets have a link to increased risks of kidney stones and other health problems. I totally agree. Okay, so it does happen. But I am more convinced, and I'm hoping that I've made this point already, I'm more convinced that it's the metabolism. Now, guys, what's metabolism? If you just look at people say, Doc, I have a high metabolism or a low metabolism. Well, let me explain what that means. When you ever think about metabolism, think about the word conversion. If you want to take a fat and turn it into water. So you want to take adipose tissue and turn it into water to rid it out. It needs to metabolize. There's certain places it goes to the body to metabolize. And yes, the liver has a high metabolism because it has mostly enzymes that we need to do it. So therefore, that's why people think the liver is the most toxic organ. No, it just deals with most of the toxin because it's the highest metabolism organ. Now the kidneys metabolize, the GI metabolizes, the thyroid metabolizes. Every organ converts things to one form or another. So therefore, that's when we look at the organs that metabolize. If we have problems with them, we sometimes can't go from A to B and B to C and C to D. And so therefore, they're at more risk for these problems. Now, what I want you guys to understand, they can end up with some deficiencies. They really can. Deficiencies, because you ever look at, do me a favor, you want to look at a really boring chart, and I didn't like it when I was in college, but I didn't realize until I really got in practice that I really had to know it, okay? And Mike and Steph, you guys remember this? Remember studying the Krebs cycle? Yeah, see, two of my lab specialists are right here. And we have our future lab that's going to be part of the Wellness Way. And they will be heading up. But Krebs cycle, I know it's really funny. I was like them, I'm like, oh, not the Krebs cycle. Now I'm obsessed with it. Do you know why? Because when we learned it in school, and we're not that old. We may be, in our, 50s and stuff like that. Mike and I being guys, we're like fine wine. We age like crazy. It's great. It's beautiful. Okay. So the idea is this. And Stephanie, you too. That's great. But here's what happens is this. Do you remember when they taught the Krebs cycle back then? They didn't show the enzymatic pathways in there. They said it converted this to acid, this acid, but there's little enzymes. And you know the vast majority of those enzymes? They're nutrient dependent. B vitamins, C vitamins, things like that. Okay? Because you need these things to convert. And so therefore I was like, so deficiencies have a very important aspect of metabolism. That's why sometimes when women can't lose weight, they're trying to drop their calorie intake so low that they're missing specific nutrients that their fat can't metabolize, okay? On the flip side, you can metabolize things into a different form and they can be stuck. Like a woman can convert her fat-soluble hormones, which most hormones, steroids are fat-soluble, thyroid are protein-based, they have no fat. But again, that's why people realize if you have hormonal problems, it doesn't convert the fat from one form to another, aka metabolize it. So let's take a look at this. Here we go. Oxalate, what is it? It's a naturally occurring compound in plants, animals, humans. The body naturally be able to synthesize oxalates, we talked about that, from various compounds such as excess vitamin C. Here's a big one. Fructose. Come back to me, Kyle, on this one. Okay. Now, once again, I see this all the time. You have a camp over here that demonizes fructose. And then you have a camp over here that says high fructose corn syrup is really good for you. Guess where I am? I'm in the middle. Because when they isolate fructose and feed it to rats, it's shown to actually reduce mitochondrial energy metabolism. It slows it down, they gain weight. But what they're doing, they're taking fructose as an isolated compound. And therefore it can. And that's why, once again, if you do look at some of those common calories taken by most Americans, it's through soda, what there is high fructose corn syrup. So I do agree with that. But what they've done, because they've isolated fructose over here and try to tell you everything's okay, am I going, no, because you got to understand this. There we go again. That's why if you look, now let's go back to this. High fructose corn syrup, the high amounts of sugar in a soda combined together. You think that could create the environment for a kidney to be damaged and have issues in metabolizing it? Absolutely. See, so all these are factors. We haven't even really talked about oxalate foods, have we yet? We're just talking about all the circumstances that lead to damage to the kidneys and other areas of the body that can now lead to even its own form. So if you eat enough fructose, forget about oxalates. You can produce a high amount of oxalates due to its conversion and kidney damage and develop from that. I've had people say, Doc, I have kidney stones. I even eat low oxalates, and I actually still have kidney stones. Yeah, but you're still doing all the bad stuff. Your sugar content too high. You're still having too much fructose, okay? And guess what happens? And I'm not saying in berries and fruits. I'm saying the added. That's why highly processed foods can lead to kidney stone production without even eating oxalates. Now, let's go back to here. Also, well as yeast. Vitamin B6 deficiency, we're going to get that. Magnesium deficiency and thiamine, which is a B1, are also ideal circumstances for increased oxalate synthesis. So like we talked about, the Krebs cycle, conversion from A to B to C to D, those deficiencies can lead to oxalate synthesis. Because See, if you look at most things, let's take progesterone, ladies, for example. Okay, progesterone, we know, is a very good steroid hormone. You need certain fats, certain B vitamins, certain anything to produce it. And what happens is this. It's produced, and guess what happens? It can be consumed and used by the body, and it can maintain other sex characteristics, ladies. But here's what happens. It can be metabolized. It can be metabolized. You know the number one thing that causes your progesterone to be metabolized into other things? It's called mental stress. And see, therefore, you can lose your progesterone because why? It converts it into other things like cortisol and cortisone. And that's why women have such a problem with progesterone deficiency today. And a lot of times women end up with a lot of estrogen problems because they don't metabolize their estrogens from stress. So therefore, those stay normal and progesterone drops, and now there's no balance and there's a lot of problems. See, that's what I talked about. You don't even have to have, it's like this. It's like, guys, I got interviewed on a podcast the other day, and they said, Doc, what do you think is the number one contributing factor to low testosterone? And I'm like, well, I have an opinion, and I think I can prove it. It's the increase in adipose tissue in men. Increase, okay? Because why? That adipose tissue can aromatize, because unless you really have a major nutritional deficiency, so a vegan can do that with a guy, but the idea is this, or testicular damage, you're probably going to produce most of your testosterone. You really will, okay? Now, there are other factors. Yes, I'm being very simplistic on my example, but they convert it into estrogens quite easily through fat tissue. That's a metabolism aspect. See, even your fat tissue can actually cause you to metabolize things and not the direction that you want. So understand that we can synthesize even oxalates without even having consumption of it. But let's get into this a little bit that way. So let's take a look. Okay, what happens when you have too much oxalates in your urine? Oxalate is a natural chemical found in the body. It also is found in some foods, but too much oxalate in urine can cause serious health problems. So we're talking about an increase of it, and this is from Mayo Clinic, but I want to pull this out. Hypoaldosteronism can be caused by a change in a gene. I always love that one, okay? An intestinal disease, or eating too many foods that are high in oxalates. The long-term health of your kidneys depends on finding hypoaldosteronism early and getting it treated quickly. I like that right there, guys. I like it right there. What they do is they talk about how kidney damage, okay? Here we go. Oxalosis happens after the kidney stops working well in the people who are primary or intestinal related causes of hyperaldosteronism. Too much oxalate collects in the blood, and this can lead to oxalate buildup in the blood vessels, bones, and organs. So here we go. We're going to take a look at some of the high oxalate foods. Beet greens. Hold the phone. Think about this. What is the highest potassium-based food? You guys know I'm obsessed with potassium because I think we're so deficient with that. I think magnesium is a very close second, but beet greens. So wait, it has high oxalates. Do you follow me? But you're going to find something quite interesting coming up here shortly. Rhubarb, spinach, beets, Swiss tarts, and cacao, sweet potatoes, peanuts, turnips, starfruit. Okay, if we just look in general, potatoes, yams, beans, see all these things. Look at Swiss chard. You say, Doc, spinach. Doc, you said raspberries are one of your favorite fruits. Beets, you love beets. See, so therefore, that's the confusing part when it comes to oxalates, because you're seeing all this. But what has to happen? The metabolism of these things is the key to know if you're going to develop the stones or not. That means, do you have some deficiencies? So first of all, I'm looking for a B6 or a B1 deficiency. I'm looking, are you doing excess fructose? Do you have excess vitamin C? Do you have excess sugar? Do you have kidney damage before it? Do you have liver damage before it from all these conversions? Now that's why if you look, I threw up some research for you. Here we go. Now this is some detailed stuff if you want to look this up. Factors that affect the oxalate metabolism and are covered in a urine organic acid test. That's why you can do certain labs to see if you do suffer with high levels, because if you do an organic acid test, there's a conversion thing that does happen. They even show the Krebs cycle on there. And therefore, if you go from A to B, and now B can't metabolize to C, B will start to become a very high in your urine, even though it's supposed to be converted to a different form. And by seeing that, and that's why when I showed you guys this, so when a person comes in and says, Doc, I have a very high history of actually kidney stones. Well, then what we want to do, we want to make sure kidney health, liver health, but also we can also do an organic acid test to see if you're having those metabolism problems. And the vast majority of people are. Let's take a little look here, okay? Urinary risk factors for calcium stone formation. If you look once again, low urine volume. once again, exercise, sweating, that's why people that exercise excessively and don't hydrate can actually lead to that because you need certain factors of water to eliminate things. But also look at this, idiopathic vitamin D intoxication. Now, here's something I want to talk about. When vitamin D came out, I can honestly tell you, Dr. Mercola made vitamin D popular. I'm so happy he did, okay? So people started taking vitamin D. But vitamin D does what? It mobilizes calcium at a high rate. So therefore, excessively taking vitamin D led to high calcium levels, and it did contribute to more stones. And I totally agree with that. Because what happens is this, you can't have in nature one big thing. If you look at too much vitamin C, that's why people taking high levels of ascorbic acid. You say, if you look, you have to look at how things exist in nature. If you look at vitamin D, if you eat that, do you ever notice it comes with vitamin K? It does, K2, sorry, K2. Because you know why? K2 helps to direct where the calcium belongs. So that's why you see now vitamin D3 with K2. And that's why when you look at the consumption of certain foods that have K2 in it, they also have vitamin D in it that way, and vice versa. So let's go back to the chart. You start looking at all the other forms that can lead to it. Once again, dietary ingestion, renal tubular problems, excessive purine ingestion, excessive dietary sodium intake. All these things can lead to the factors that are leading to the calcium oxalates and the other oxalates that come there. And look at, they have a treatment for them, but it doesn't ever get things back to normal. Now, what I want to show you is this. Let's go through it a little bit more here. We take a look at, once again, we talked about the oxalate formation, and then so just repeating this again, but I see there's going to be some deficiencies. And we talked about fructose. Now, fructose in kidney stones, let's go over that. Certain foods are commonly consumed in the United States to promote kidney stone formation. High fructose consumption is linked to the increased excretion of calcium, oxalates, and uric acid, okay, which are all associated with increased risk of kidney stones. Research has showed that high fructose diets are at greater risk for kidney stone formation. Do you understand that fructose at a high concentration is actually linked more to calcium oxalate formation than eating oxalates itself? And does anybody know the number one aspect of consumption of calories comes from Americans today? It's still soda. And what is soda loaded with? High fructose corn syrup. See, and that's going to affect your kidney health, and therefore it leads to it. Now, once again, am I saying that if you do have kidney stones, you should eat oxalates? I'm not saying that, okay? You want to, for a time, that should give you a little time to maybe avoid those high oxalate foods and then put the other ones that have high B6 and B1 and potassium and citrate. So if you take a look at these high B6 foods, turkey, chicken, banana, salmon, sirloin, roast beef, pork loin. Oh, but guess what has a lot of good B1 and B6? Beef liver. That's why people are like, Doc, you would never go vegan even though you know the best protein sources for being plant source. I do, I just can never give up liver and all of its benefits, okay? Now, if we take a look here, the major antagonist of calcium-based stones is citrate. Citrate is present in citrus foods. Drinking fresh squeezed lemons in water can be an effective remedy for kidney stones. Now think about that. That's why people say, oh my goodness, you got to do lemon during, if you have kidney stones. Well, let me give you a better formula. Take 2 tablespoons of olive oil, take 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and take 1 full fresh lime and 1 full fresh lemon and squeeze them, and actually that's what you drink. Because the fat, the change in biochemistry when you use the apple cider vinegar, the acetic acid, and everything does a wonderful job of actually affecting it. Now, there's other ways to get citrate into your body. So if we look at some of the high citrate-based foods, oranges, lemon, limes, pomegranate, grapefruit, passion fruit, but also it's mainly in the form of potassium citrate. Ha 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 ha. People don't realize that's why I'm so obsessed with potassium, because the major form that I love to giving is potassium citrate. Now, there are other forms we give during other things that people are suffering with, but potassium is so important. It really is. Because not only the fact you need potassium to make sure that there's a good sodium-potassium balance, but even sodium increase can hold water, which can put pressure and damage on the kidneys. That's why hypertension can lead to kidney damage and kidney stones. Now, also, people say, Doc, what herbs work really good if I do have kidney stones? That's where nettle has a major effect. Once again, stinging nettle is a very important herb that covers many systems, and that's why you see when nettle, because it affects and has the constituents to help metabolize the oxalates and move them through. So if we look at oxalates in general, are they bad? No. Are they always good? No. So instead of in the middle. Oxalates have a very important aspect of many aspects of our physiology and metabolism, but oxalates can be produced even if you don't even eat oxalates. So what we need to do is this. If you are in the realm where you do have kidney damage or some problems, look at your fructose consumption. Look at your R deficiencies that can lead to it. Look at if you're taking some high dose of vitamin C that way, and make sure that you change it. Make sure it's more in a whole food form. Make sure that you're actually keeping your sugar content down. Make sure that you have K2 in your diet to mobilize and get that calcium where it belongs. Make sure that you're doing the things that don't relate to other liver or kidney damage that can build up and create the environment for kidney stones to develop. See, those are the changes that we need to do. It's not just as easy as take some lemon or avoid oxalates that way, because oxalates can be formed without you even eating oxalate-based foods in the first place. So, that being said, we're gonna go back to Dr. Bryce, Dr. Destiny, Dr. Lucas, and Dr. Bryce. We also are gonna pick that one person that's gonna win that one container of the new skincare line that comes out in October.
Oh yeah, we got it. Comments blew up after that, so there's a lot of people who have been waiting for it. So I will go ahead and get started right away then. So as far as the blood sugar glandular goes, we've got quite a few winners here. So I have Tammy Finmore, Julie Hangartner, Yanni Volmer, Kathy Batterman, Heidi Kosens, Ruth Menke, Joylene O'Farrell, and Amanda Jane. And then for the beef tallow, we have Kaylin Mickelson. So there you go. You'll be the first person to actually receive that. So congratulations.
Awesome. We had some great interaction on ADP this morning. Our winners today for the blood sugar glandular are Chelly Yu, John Teegert, Christine Holiday Raquel, Jean M., Jacqueline Joden, Mary K. Locker, and Jess J. Congratulations, guys.
Nice. And Instagram absolutely blew up. This has been a great time, guys. Springer9350, thank you for being one of the first people to say good morning. Van USAX, thank you for tuning in from Boston. Lindsay G. Whitman, happy birthday, by the way. That was just on Friday for you, so I guess you share that. My Scattered Joy, Jesse_.web, thank you for doubting that genetic excuse from your docs. KAO Terry, this name's gonna be fun. You want powwow. That was a great comment. And I am Star of Life. Guys, make sure you email giveaways at thewellnessway.com if you want to get your prize.
All right, thank you so much for all you winners tuning in on a regular basis that way and stuff, and so it's kind of cool. Now, what we're going to end up going to our last 10%. Now remember, if you're on ADP, stick on. We stay on that one. It's a platform that we can never kick off because I own it. So we on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, go over to ADP. Just go to thewellnessway.com and actually go to shows, and it'll say ADP, and we'll continue that way. So Kyle, I'm gonna get off of TikTok here, and we are going to go live over to our platform only. So Kyle, let's get into our last 10%. Welcome to our last 10%. Today we're going to talk about something that I believe that I knew was going to kind of blow up. And I knew it was going to do really well on Facebook because I want to hear people's opinions. I like to hear feedback. I like to hear what people say. I like to how people talk to each other. I like to see people's demeanor and also their responses and how they even handle a little bit of stress or even a little bit of debate. All right. So what I did on Facebook is I came over and I just wrote something because I hear this all the time and I want to see what you guys thought. So here's what I posted. What is your response when a person says, I was forced to get the shot? Please leave your response below. Mine coming soon. Well, mine's coming now, okay? And you should have seen the responses. I saw cat fights like you couldn't believe on there. They were just going back and forth and everything like that. And once again, and people don't realize, and I watched people get in just nasty fights over it. I was kind of highly entertained, you know, Sam. I really was, you know. I believe fighting's good. I really do. I think conflict is amazing. See, if you ever think, if you ever want to have a very shitty life, avoid conflict. Really, avoid conflict. Just become a yes man to everything you do that way. You'll never stand for anything. No one will ever follow you because you don't stand for anything. Remember, the people that stand for nothing fall for everything, okay? And when it comes to this, I'm cool with whatever stance you have. See, that's the cool thing is, for example, as you guys know, I'm heavily involved politically. I think Republicans are idiots. I think Democrats are idiots. I think that, for example, anybody that can't just understand our freedoms is the most important thing, okay? So I've went against Republicans that were against freedom. I went against Democrats for freedom. Yes, we're in a season of life right now where the Democrats are just all against freedom. They're wrong, but you go back to the 60s, there's a reason why the colleges were liberal, because liberal stands for free speech, is because back then they hated free speech. So it's just cyclic. So that's why don't become tribal. Think for yourself, but be able to conflict. But most people can't conflict because they're wasting time on the Packers and all the bullshit doesn't make anything to do with their life. But the idea is this, is think about and sit about certain issues. So I posed this, and I'm going to give you my response now. I posed this because I knew what everybody was going to say. I really did. I can even tell from my audience. I can tell you what the person that's wearing a mask is going to say, and I can tell you a person that's wearing the American flag shirt is going to say. And now why? Because here's what happens, okay? Because I want to clear something up because it happened during the Wall Street Journal interview. So I was asked a question, and we were talking about stuff, and we were talking about Trump, and they said, well, Trump's not empathetic. I said, whoa, no. You got that wrong. See, because here's where politics has turned into. Politics, just like anything else, should never be about emotion, ever. Because why? And that's why, I know it's really funny, I'm gonna piss a lot of you guys off, that's why I believe women should not be in politics, because they're too fucking emotional about shit. Do you understand? Don't believe me? It's like, you understand? And so what they do is like, and people say, well, you're being misogynistic. No, I'm not, I'm actually fucking realistic. Do you understand? Oh, I just love that. I'm not misogynistic, I'm realistic. Okay, here we go, all right? But no, it's really crazy because they get all emotional and they do this. Because here's what happens. Let me show you how the feminine aspect has hurt us in so many ways when it comes to our world. And it does this all the time, and the female reporter got this wrong. Because what they do is this. Let's say that you have a child, okay? I have just my 11-year-old daughter today, okay? We always think our kids are better than they really are. Actually, most people think they're better than they really are. And most people have a very wrong view about themselves, okay? So all of a sudden their kids, all the kids, I'm generalizing, but you know what I'm saying, just in general, okay? That's why most kids play sports, even though most of them are, should be more in the Special Olympics than in sports themselves, okay? But the idea is this, I tell you, this is why we have to do this off the platform. It's going to get kicked off otherwise. But here's what happens this, is because by nature, let's say that there's a team, there's people that don't keep score anymore. And that is more of a feminine trait. Why? Because they don't want to see your kids lose. And that's more of a trait by males that are raised by moms because they actually have not the competition aspect in them. And see, because it's like, well, my kid didn't get a chance. Well, believe it or not everybody should get a chance. There are some kids that should be left behind. Do you know why? Because I'll say this from being a person of faith. God gave everyone, you guys, a gift. A parent's job is to help the child figure it out and prepare them for the world. But trying to get them to fit in the world that everybody should play football, everybody should play basketball, everybody should do this, is wrong. You are creating not only physical but emotional problems with your kids by doing that. You say, a job of the parent is to see the gifts. I, as a CEO of a big company, I look at the gifts of people and go, you're here, you belong here, this, and this. And I've had people be downright ticked at me. I can tell you, one of my favorite people in this whole company, she applied for a job at Green Bay, and I told her no. I said, it's not you. You're not ready for it. You can't do it that way. And she could have quit like a lot of people have in my company when I tell them that. And she didn't, and she went in a direction, and then she got hired over here at headquarters, where she's the best of the best at her job. But see, because she wanted to go to, I said, that's not you. You would be horrible at that job. But she wanted that job, but she wasn't set for it. Do you say, I can honestly tell you, I've done it to my kids. I want to do this. Why? You're never going to do it. Isn't it crazy? People can't say it to their kids. It's really funny. Like, kids, if your parents say this, respond back to them this way. Honey, you can do whatever you put your mind to. Then why didn't you, mom or dad? Do you follow me on that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not doing your dreams, so what do you tell me to go my dreams for? Do you say? It's not a joke. See, I don't have this kind of BS conversations with my kids. You know why? Because I'm a huge empathetic person. So Kyle, pop this up for a second. Empathy is the ability to emotionally understand what other people see, feel, see things at the point of view, and imagine yourself in their place. Essentially, it's putting yourself in someone else's position, aka shoes, and feel what they might be feeling. When you see another person suffering, you might be able to instantly envision yourself in the person's place and feel sympathy for them and what they're going through. Perfect. I love. Let's stop right there. So I want you to imagine this. I put myself, people say, Doc, your vast majority, 90% of my patients through my career are all women. 90%. Guess what happens? I got a secret. No matter what the Democrats say, I'm not a woman. Okay? But the idea is this. Here happens. But then how can I relate? How can I speak their language when I was sitting in a room with them to where they said, Doc, you so understand me. I've never been through a cycle. No matter what they say medically, even if they try to put a uterus in people, you're never going to experience it like they do. Okay? But I can put myself in their shoes going, man, can you imagine bleeding 2 weeks out of a month? Oh, you know what I'm saying? And I can put myself in their shoes even though I can't feel the same way they do, so I don't have sympathy for them. See, we confuse empathy and sympathy. See, empathy is where, hey, listen, I can put myself in shoes. I understand what you're going through. I really do. But I don't have to feel the same way you do. So we do this all the time. Men and women fight about this all the time. Big time, okay? Because once again, emotional, a little logical. Like I said, I'm just being funny, but there's, I always say relationships are psychological. One's psycho, one's logical. You pick out who, okay? But the idea is this. So let's say all of a sudden, yeah, I know it's really funny, but let's do this, okay? All of a sudden, your wife goes through something. And as a husband, you go, yeah, I'm gonna put myself in your shoes. I can understand why you're upset, or understand this way. But then, even though you say, I understand, you can talk to them about that way, but they're still pissed at you. Do you know why? Because you're not having the same feelings. And they want you to have the same pain and the same anger that they had. And you're like, I don't feel like you do. You don't care. Oh, no. Don't go there. You know what I'm saying? I told you I can understand because we don't put the emotional component. We say logical, go, I can understand. And I'm even saying you're right, but you're never going to force me to feel like you do. And I watch husband and wives, family members, all things like that get in a fight over sympathy. And I'm telling you right now, for some reason, thank you, Lord, I have, if there was a scale of sympathy on 1 to 10, 10 being the most, 1 being the least, I am like a minus 70. And here's why, and I've even trained myself, and I try to train every guy around me. I don't care about my feelings. Do you know why? Because my feelings are horrible a lot of times. Horrible. And guys, you can relate. People don't realize a man's feelings are a lot of anger and rage. And if you're raised by a mom, oh honey, just do what you feel. That's a bad day. That's a bad day. Do you know what I'm saying? And so therefore, I am not sympathetic. Why would I care about your feelings when I don't even care about my feelings? That's my saying. It's my famous saying. People are like, I don't care how you feel. Why not? Because I don't give a shit how I feel. Because right now I feel like punching you in the face. Do you understand? So if I went through my feelings, it's a bad day. Do you understand? And it's like, and see, that's what I tell people. So we confuse this. So therefore, let's go back to my statement again. I was forced to get the shot. And people gave you every empathetic and trying to get sympathy from people, and that's where the fights came about. I watched the fights, they're yelling over feelings, not yelling over logic. You understand? Because here's what happens. The reason why I fight so hard politically is because we do have freedom of choice. We do. My job, okay, guess what? I can put myself in your shoes. You make $100,000 a year, and all of a sudden you have a nice house, things like this, say, and you say, well, if I didn't get the shot, I would lose my job. Okay? I totally empathize with you, totally. But I don't feel sympathy when you want us to feel sympathetic that you had to get the shot, and then you get damage from it, and then you're like, feel bad for me, that shot's bad. I have no sympathy for you. You weren't forced. There wasn't one person forced because you got to choose between taking the jab or taking your job. And people say, well, it's so difficult. Do you understand? I'm not joking. My daughter, my Trinity is at a seminar right now, real estate, with my wife and my real estate team and stuff like that, down in Florida, doing some wonderful trainings. And guess what happens? She's owning her first property in Florida. Here she is, okay? She's 17, be 18 next thing. She'll be a multimillionaire by the time she's 20. Do you understand it's the easiest time in history to make money? So easy. It's not hard. Here, all you have to do is everything they tell you financially, do the totally opposite, and you'll be rich. Do you understand? You'll be rich. Like I said, if you want to be healthy, do totally opposite medicine tells you, and you're going to be healthy. Statistically, because why? All those people that listen to them are sick. All you have to do is totally opposite. You understand? That's why people tell me about business. Hey, I do this in business. Well, you're broke. I'm going this way. Do you understand? And see, because we have choice. So I'll tell you right now, I am so empathetic for all you guys that were put in a position, a very bad position. No owner, me included, own a big company with a lot of employees, would ever put my employees in a choice between something that could hurt them and something that actually to take their job away. I mean, I think that's the most disgusting thing. Why would you even want to work for a boss like that? Why would you want to work for an administrator that says, you don't get the shot, you lose your job? Now, once again, if you got the jab, you weren't forced into it. Now, were you coerced into it? Sure. But coercion is different than forced. You understand? And it's like, but the idea is this, is you were put in a situation where you still had to make a choice. So there was no force. It's just that, and this is where I have zero sympathy. You didn't want to be inconvenienced because maybe it did affect your bottom dollar. Maybe it did affect that you had to move. Maybe you did have to change careers. Maybe this. Is that inconvenient? Yes. You understand? I don't know why people, are so thrown off by inconvenience. Do you know why? If you're a parent, you're already inconvenienced for the rest of your life. Kids are, I love a new parent said, we're ready for a child. What the hell are you talking about? There's no such thing as ready for a child. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing more frustrating to when you have a little baby and you look at them and they're just beautiful. That's when they're sleeping and stuff like that, and they're just gorgeous. And all of a sudden, they just have a crying fit and you have no idea why. And they're arching their back and things like that, and you just are like so angry and frustrated. And then 5 minutes later, they're the absolutely beautiful thing again, and you feel guilty for being mad for that 5 minutes. You say, I'm very inconvenient. Guess what happens? Life is full of inconveniences. If you work for me, I will make you inconvenient. I will push you so hard that you'll want to cry and break. But guess what happens? This. But if you continue to grow the world around you, you can understand people. And do you understand, the more empathetic you are, you're going to look at people different. You really will. You really will. Because here's what happens this. Because nobody's forced into anything. I don't care if you live in the hood. I don't care if you live on, in a mansion. Do you understand? What happens is this. We all have to make our choices, and there's consequences. There's consequences to every choice. There really is. People said, Doc, you took a big stand during COVID. Consequences. And guess what happens? Half people love me. Half people think I'm Satan. Do you understand? And on the flip side, there's, if you look at any choice you make on anything, half people are going to love you, half people are going to hate you. Don't believe me? Look at the election cycle. 45% of people are going to hate you, 40% of people love you. There's still 10% that are in between. You understand? And I want to tell you right now, that's why we have to look at these things. So therefore, when I told people the arguments they get, stop arguing about feelings. Ask a person one thing. Did you have a choice? And yes, could that choice been inconvenient? Absolutely. You could have had to uproot your whole family and move to a different state. That's why I tell people, I'm not saying don't fight if you live in California, but you can't tell me that you hate vaccines. And yes, they've really done really bad things in New York and California by getting really resistant. They really can't do it. It's just that you'd have to fight or move to a different state. Well, I don't want to move, so we're forced to give our kids vaccines. No, you weren't. You actually chose not to be inconvenienced. That's it. It's a choice. Everything's a choice in life. Me pissing you off right now, I made that choice before I even got to this camera today. It fills my soul. It does. It's just the way I do. So here we go. The vast majority of people that you need to have empathy for are the suffering of past hurts. I have very significant amount of empathy for people that chose to get it and actually hurt by it, or actually had some bad things happen. I have very big empathy for you, I really do. But here's what happens. Don't confuse my empathy with sympathy, because here's what it defines as. There's in meaning is usually explained with some variation of the following. Sympathy is when you share the same feelings of another. Empathy is when you understand the feelings of another but don't necessarily share them. I can totally understand that if you're upset at me. I really can. Because if I push you to be great, to do anything of significance, it takes pain. And therefore I put myself in the shoes. Before I even do a training we call the rising grinds. Before I do the rising grinds, I literally prepare myself and I sit back, I say, okay, we have a new employee. They don't know who I am, and I employ them, and guess what happens? And I got to get them to be better than they are. Because do me a favor, if you think you're great the way you are, please raise your hand, okay? No one does. We can always improve some area of our life. So I go, how can we get and rise and grind to get better? And I put myself in their shoes before I even get it. You understand? And it's like, and I go, okay, what am I going to say? I know that I'm going to sit there like I'm sitting in their chair, and I've never had any personal growth development. I've been lied to by my college. And I say, what am I going to say, and how am I going to get them to go in the right direction? And I know that the vast majority of people are going to do what? When somebody's challenged or conflicted, or you create conflict in themselves. See, some of my words create conflict within you. I always tell people, and I love analogies, that's why I created the term, I'm like mental herpes. Okay? I will say something, and it'll anger you. You'll be ticked off, this, and this. And you may never come on the podcast again. But then one day, something happens. And guess what happens? Just like that outbreak, here I come. Do you see him? And it's like Dr. Flynn said this. That has happened thousands of times, right? People say, I was so mad at you. I turned you off. This, and this. We had Dr. Bryce's bachelor party last night. I went to the country club, okay? We played there, and I walked in, and this guy, I've seen him before that way, and I walked to get sparkling water and everything with lime, and getting my citrate. And all of a sudden, he's like, oh, hey, Dr. Flynn, you get your vaccine yet? And stuff like that. No, Jerome. And the guys with him look like, oh my goodness. He goes, no, I watch him all the time. He's awesome, stuff like that. I don't even know the guy's name, okay? So he's probably watching right now, but I forget your name. Sorry, but anyways, it was yesterday. So long story short, it's kind of cool. Is like, but see, here's what happens this. Is I understand it, and I watch the two faces like, but see, I put myself in their shoes going, oh my goodness. Knowing the fact that I could say something, and what it did during COVID, it impacted, I stood up for it that way. Now, is he a patient? No, he doesn't see anyone else ways that way. But see, it's that mental herpes that I know, and he even said to me, he goes, you're right. And I looked at, and whenever he always tells me that, because I predicted what was going to happen, I always say, I wasn't trying to be right. Do you understand? I mean it sincerely. See, that's why people always want to prove that they're right. Do you understand? Be empathetic. If you're right and they're wrong, does that bring you closer or farther apart? See, I don't mind being right. I hate being right when things can really destroy people's lives. But I don't argue to be right. I argue to plant a seed. I debate to plant a seed because sometimes there's got to be something in your life besides me that actually causes some change. And therefore, then my words resonate in your head. Okay? So be empathetic. Understand that. There's people, all you guys that were arguing with the people, and I saw some name calling and stuff like that. It's kind of fun. I enjoy it. It's kind of fun. I think we got to bring bullying back anyways. But the idea is this, ideas push each other, but be empathetic. I'm asking everybody, don't be sympathetic. Do you say you can't. Not when it comes to logical things that decide choices and rights. Because here's what happens this. So if you are watching your kids play a sports team today, guess what happens? It's the feminine aspect that wants everybody to get a chance and stuff like that. Not everybody deserves a chance. That's the funny thing. Not everybody deserves a chance. When I told this most incredible employee that you're not going to get that job, it's not you, you're never going to do it as long as I own this company. She could have ran. She could have. And most people do. 90% of people do. She didn't. She said, okay, what do I do? This is what you're gifted at. And no joke, and I couldn't even imagine not having Yanni here at the other side of the company over here in headquarters. I can't even imagine it. Do you say, but are you willing to have those kind of conversations with everything, from healthcare to oxalates to phytic acid to carnivore to everything you do? And see, that's what we're trying to do on a regular basis here. Now, and remember, we have a platform and a research database, and we do cover personal growth and development and all the things on there. That's why leadership longevity is so important. And you can read all the topics and stuff that we have. I just love like the vitamin K shot. I love debating doctors about the vitamin K shot. It's just that simple. You say, because you ask them the ingredients for a vitamin K shot, they can't tell you at all. See, but we can. See, so what happens, because I'm empathetic. I really am empathetic. I know the doctor has no idea about what's in the vitamin K shot, but they're so conditioned that they will try to force people to take it, and they're taught catchphrases, just like you're taught at church. You're taught catchphrases all the time. That's why you debate people at church, they lose their mind, and they try to say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, no, I just don't follow catchphrases. That's just kind of funny. I got a funny one from somebody this morning, and it's like, when it comes to culture and why I never go to church. And it's little meme, it says, I was kicked out of church because I yelled, fuck the devil. I thought we hated that motherfucker. Do you understand? Really true, that's me at church. That's why I don't go to church. Like, hey, what's up? You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, fuck this shit. And it's like, and they freak out. I'm like, boy, I'm on your side. I hate Satan. Love Jesus. Gonna fight for you. Gonna make sure that Christianity is a great thing that way. But see, if you don't follow that kind of cultural thing that way, and I think that's why the Welsh way, we just don't follow that kind of culture. But I'm sympathetic. I apologize. I'm empathetic. I have no sympathy for you guys. You say I love this. My church is, I'm like, did your church close during COVID? Yes. Your pastor's a moron. If you're a pastor that closed down during church, you're a fucking moron. Let's debate it. Let's debate it. Do you say, you didn't have the FBI showing up at your house, try to tell you you're a terrorist? Do you say, and see, I just don't care. So remember, all this good stuff is on our TW Plus. You can type in you can type in disagree, or I think it's also the book name. What's a book? The cookbook name? Scratch and stuff on there. Guys got me going, so now there. And then you can see our TW Plus. We cover a lot of stuff. We hide a lot of our personal growth and development stuff, but that's what also our Leadership Longevity Conference is about. So guys, remember, stay healthy, stay free. Happy birthday to my wonderful daughter, Felicity. You are 11 years old. We're going to celebrate today. You've been nothing but a great addition to my life, just like Faith, Trinity, and Calista have. It's great having a wonderful family of 4 daughters and now a son-in-law who actually is following our footsteps. And we appreciate all you guys, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single video or live stream. Each week on A Different Perspective, we bring you the most cutting-edge information on health you won't find anywhere else. For more information on this topic, please visit our website. A Different Perspective offers life-changing information and resources to share and explore. A Different Perspective is leading a health revolution.